Good morning and welcome to the second day of this Mega Bharat Nutrition Week conclave. I am Kamal Narayan, CEO of Integrated Health and Wellbeing Council, India's premier institution for health awareness, advocacy, and behavior change. As an institution, it has been a constant endeavor of the ISW Council to create strong advocacy for anything and everything that concerns the people's health through campaigns, forums, and public movements. This second edition of Bharat Nutrition Week is one such initiative that brings together policymakers, experts, clinicians, social influencers, public, and even school children through a series of thought-provoking activities. Nutrition through good food is the very basis of healthy life. And in these 7 days, which also mark the beginning of National Poshan Mah, we will deep dive into some of the most pertinent issues related to the nutrition and health of children. But before we proceed, let's have a glimpse of highlights of previous edition of Bharat Nutrition Week. Welcome to the second Mega Bharat Nutrition Week by ISW Council on the occasion of National Poshan Mah.
The problem of nutrition is very, very high in India, especially all developed and developing countries like other countries, because we are facing a triple burden of disease.
We have to own the responsibility on ourselves as specialists, doctors, healthcare providers of all cadres. What are we doing about it?
Today, the average person is far more informed about nutrition than ever before.
Good awareness at every level, not only at provider level, but also at beneficiary level, the community level, policymakers level, policy implementers level. So all this thing is required. Then we require integrated approach.
This food show will try to understand the health habits and the health threats that we face in our day-to-day life and which we don't fulfill to proper nutrition's need our body.
Of course, being a good role model, not being preachy and pedantic about it, but explaining them the whys of everything.
The things that I make sure is that they have enough greens and enough color in their food.
When someone asks me what we should be feeding our kids and having ourselves, the first thing I will say, always advise, is eat local, eat seasonal.
Let's begin the Bharat Poshan Premier Quiz 2021. Kyunki
Khane mein hai dam. This is day 1 and the theme for today is anemia. Let us begin with our quiz for the day with round 1. First question for calcium warriors.
Hemoglobin is made up of A. Carbohydrates, B. Proteins, or C. Lipids.
We'll go with proteins.
That's correct, guys. The answer is protein. Question for you is:
what is the richest source of iron? A. Meat and liver, B. Milk, C. Vegetables, or D. Eggs?
So vegetables.
A. It's meat and liver. And we have the scores for the end of first day. Okay, so the end of day 1, anemia fighters are at 30 points. DC champions at 20 points. Calcium warriors at 40 points. Immunity boosters at 40 points. Health crusaders at 40 points. And protein kings at 20 points.
That's amazing, guys. This was a good quiz.
I'm making 2 dishes today. They are very simple. You can make it anytime at home. And it's a snack. It's a healthy snack. And these 2 dishes are Vietnamese spring rolls and Vietnamese salad bowl. food platter that we have with the dip, roll, and the salad bowl.
The theme of this year's National Nutrition Week is feeding right from the start. Usually, we would think that start refers to newborn, but the nutrition requirement of child starts much before they are born. It starts from the moment they start taking shape inside their mother's womb. The nutritional status of the mother determines the health of the child and herself. Experts say that the first 1,000 days from the conception of the child play a decisive role in their development inside and outside the womb. It is the golden window of opportunity to reduce malnutrition in children and keeping our society on track of achieving sustainable development goals. And one does not need to move mountains to meet this requirement. Simple steps such as proper daily nutrition for our girls, adolescents, and women, exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months, followed by complementary feeding, and timely immunization are some of the measures that can be taken to ensure the child develops into healthy and productive citizen. Since the introduction of Poshan Abhiyan by the Government of India, the discussions around nutrition and lack of it have become mainstream to a large extent. And with several government initiatives, India has also made a remarkable stride in improving the dismal statistics on pregnancy-related and under 5 children deaths. But as there is still a long way to go, the acclaimed experts of this panel today will discuss how we can move faster and solidly to ensure a robust mother and child health becomes the foundation of our dream of making a Swasth and an Ayushman Bharat. And to anchor this critical discussion, we have our highly committed champion of women's health, Dr. Hema Diwakar. Dr. Diwakar is the CEO and chairman of the Asian Research and Training Institute for Skill Transfer, known as Artist for Her. Dr. Diwakar is one of the most ardent advocates of women health in India and is working with a vision to improve the healthcare services ecosystem for the welfare of women and children. As a member of ISW Council Advisory Board and chair of Maternal and Child Health, she is also the force behind our Sapath 1000 Days program. Dr. Diwakar has been improving women's health outcomes through large-scale training programs in partnership with several state governments. She is the former president of FOXI, the apex body of OBGYNs in India, and at present is FOXI ambassador for FIGO, the international organization of OBGYNs. So over to you, Dr. Diwakar, to carry forward this panel.
Namaskar. Thank you, Kamalji. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to yet another exciting but insightful week of Bharat Nutrition, where Shapath, our 1000-day journey, in the right earnest and our intent to walk the talk. So we saw in the video how the young children through the Bharat Nutrition Quiz learned the whys of the nutrition. We made some quick fix recipes which were very well demonstrated by our diet and nutrition expert, and we ate the right kind of food. So this completes holistically everything around the nutrition, which is also the vision of ISW Council, that it is not all about just eating right, but it is not only the good food, but the good air, the good environment, the good thoughts, the good intent, and the good movement as how we have resolved in Shapath. And I invite all our very, very esteemed and distinguished panelists to join hands in this endeavor to walk the talk, to move the needle of the healthcare in this great country. So today on this panel, we have a very prestigious mix of the world's who is who, starting with Mr. Bijao Parajuli, who is from the World Food Program representative in our own country. Mr. Parajuli took office at the United Nations World Food Program, which is called the WFP. He's a representative and the country director, starting from the 1st of September 2019. And he brings in 3 long decades, in fact, 3.5 decades of very rich and distinguished experience in development, humanitarian affairs, diplomacy, fundraising, and management, not only in our own country, but also 10 countries across Asia, Middle East, Africa, and the headquarters from Rome. Well, it is said that Rome was not built in one day. Similarly, his rich experience, which he will share with us in the keynote, will take us through his journey of what lessons have been learned and what is his advice for us to yet again join hands and move things forward in our endeavor to do the best for the generation next. We are also going to be joined in the panel following the keynote by Mr. Parajuli. We have none other than Dr. Ajay Khera, the country representative of Endanger Health in India. He is based out of New Delhi and has occupied this position since 2020. But our connections with Dr. Khera has been for a very long stint of time. He was the Maternal and Child Health Commissioner and the Public Health Specialist at the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare from 2018 to 20, and has been relentlessly contributing to the welfare in this segment of women and child healthcare. Welcome, Dr. Khera, to join this panel. We move backwards. Khera's stint on everything that can be done throughout the journey of our lives. We start from the newborns, infants, toddlers. So we have Dr. Arun Singh, the professor at the Department of Neonatology at the prestigious AIIMS from Jodhpur. He holds an important position as the national advisor for what we call as RBSK, which expands as Rashtriya Bal Swasthya Karyakram. And you just saw those little children Pan-India quiz, which runs every single afternoon. And they're so excited to prepare for the quiz that in that process, they learn a lot and share a lot. He is responsible for conceiving the program for all children of the country from birth to 18 years for universal screening and management. And there is much more to his work, which we will share on the panel. Last but not the least, my very beloved friend and colleague, Dr. Atta Bajaj from the Cygnus group of hospitals. She's an OBGYN, and we often discuss that it all begins in utero. So right from the start point of the programming of the child in the womb, of the environment that is exposed to, by we as OBGYNs taking care of the well-being of the mother during her pregnancy. So the 1,000 days, ladies and gentlemen, is the 280 days of pregnancy and the next 2 years of the infancy, which actually lays the very foundation of the good health for the generation next. And a good start to life is, of course, with the good nutrition. With that setting of the context, I have once again the privilege of inviting all my panelists, and we invite the keynote speaker for this panel, Mr. Parajuli from the World Food Program representative in our own country, to deliberate on some key points based on his glorious experience in the last so many years. Mr. Parajuli, please.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. I'm really honored and delighted to join this distinguished panel, and I also want to really congratulate and thank the ISW for this great initiative. Indeed, nutrition, and that's where everything begins. And therefore, the importance of having proper nutrition for everybody is really fundamental to countries' development, to health, to economy, and everything. And also to stress that it's not only food which helps to get into proper nutrition, but a combination of education, poverty, overall health, water, sanitation, overall, availability and support is really fundamental. Indeed, as was referred, India has made some good strides over the years, but still the challenges remain. And therefore, continued engagement, conversation, new ideas and thoughts, and added vigor from the government side into program and projects and academics, civil society, institutions like ours is really important to contribute to betterment of nutrition in India. And so in that context, I have several points I want to sort of lay down. Malnutrition, of course, impacts at individual level, it impacts society level, and it impacts at national level and overall economy level. And it has a bearing on education, health, and income potential, and therefore it's really an important issue. It reduces productivity. It can challenge education. It can challenge health and retard the growth of the country. So it is value for money, and it's an economic justification to invest in nutrition. There are a number of statistics floating around. Just to give a quote, the undernutrition and malnutrition deficiency causes around $2.1 trillion losses to the global economy, and reduction of nearly 8% of the national economic growth. And some researchers, scientists have come up with an estimate that $1 invested in nutrition brings a $15 return on economy and national development. So therefore, it is an important point from all angles for a country to prosper, for a country to reach to a higher level of economic attainment, to invest on nutrition. I think, as was mentioned, it starts from conception. The whole issue of nutrition, and therefore the foundation of optimum health, growth, and neurodevelopment starts across early stage in life. 1,000 days is a very important concept and really important to start from. Studies have shown that countries that fail to invest in well-being of women and children in the first 1,000 days lose billions of dollars to lower economic productivity and higher health costs. And therefore, it's really an important topic you have chosen in the context of the conversation today. Of course, once the child is born, for the first 6 months, the concentration on breastfeeding is fundamental. from a different angle. After 6 months, supplemented by complementary food together with breastfeeding is an important element to stress on, and also inappropriate and untimely or delays introduction of complementary feeding can also lead to faltering of growth among young children during the period of 6 to 24 months. Both food and feeding practices influences the quality of complementary feeding, and mothers and families also need to support to practice good complementary feeding practices and behavior. A lot of social issues, cultural issues, taboos which surround our society sometimes retards that opportunity for nutrition at a certain age or period or condition for women. The concern of poverty has also attributes to access to proper food and nutrition, and therefore these are very important consideration which challenges the nutrition. Of course, food plays a fundamental role in the context of good nutrition and good development and health, but it's a balanced diet what is important. A combination of calorie, vitamin, minerals, micronutrients in adequate quantities and qualities. A lot of time at a national level is perceived enough production is equivalent to access to the individual, but that's not necessarily true. There may be enough supplies, but people, because of the economic status, our income, or knowledge, don't have that access to have a balanced food or required quantity of food across different period in their life. So it is very vital to look from that point of view. Of course, the issues of health infection, such as diarrhea, respiratory infections, can also affect food intake and retard growth and cause malnutrition. A lot of time, lack of clean and pure water and inadequate sanitation also contributes to malnutrition. And therefore, combination of these factors are really paramount to promote good nutrition. WFP undertook a number of studies looking into women eating the last in UP, for example, and different elements. The tribal population in Rajasthan, how it affects them. We have undertaken lots of these empirical, quantitative, and research to find out some of the challenges. There is also a point to note in the context of nutrition is the Sustainable Development Goals. The 193 countries which have signed to improve the life of their citizen and betterment from a socioeconomic point to education, to health, and sustainability of the environment, etc. Those 17 goals, 12 of those sustainable development goals contribute to improve nutrition. So the point I stressed before, poverty, hunger, the element of food, health, education, gender, water sanitation, illness such as HIVs, economic growth, consumption, etc. All contribute to that. So improving sustainable development goal in a broader sense also leads to overall improvement in the nutrition situation. Indeed, there was reference to various efforts being made in India to improve on nutrition. I have to say congratulations and good commendation for these efforts. Starting from the public distribution program, which covers 800 million people, and during the COVID period, continuing now an additional doubling of the ration with the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. I think these are excellent efforts to avoid faltering and challenge the nutrition among the poor household who have lost jobs and income opportunities because of COVID. The supplementary programs such as ICDS is a great example with the Anganwadi workers really contributing in different ways, and the midday meal, covering almost 100 million students in school, hot day meal. Overall, these programs alone cover about 1 billion population. So these are great steps. And then, of course, the Poshan Abhiyan, there was reference made, and the Poshan Abhiyan Mission Poshan 2, the initiative from the Honorable Prime Minister itself is stressing this, the initiative like Anemia, Mukta Bharat, and then also Mother's Absolute Affection initiative like breastfeeding, and the recent announcement by the Honorable Prime Minister on rice fortification to ensure that all supplementary food have vitamin, minerals, much needed to people's growth to address nutrition is great initiative. And of course, there are other issues such as Swachh Bharat and the toilet program. These are indeed commendable. And as I mentioned, also the initiative of increased food ration and other support to respond to the COVID pandemic situation is a great step. Sadly, hunger has really increased, almost double in the world because of COVID, from 130 million to 270 million people. In addition to the already existing situation of nearly 811 million people not getting enough food to eat globally, and several countries which are the middle of war, drought, climate change situation, and economic challenges, there are nearly 40 plus million people on the verge of starvation and famine. So the world has suffered quite a bit with this COVID situation. Now coming back to India with its 1.4 billion people and the continental size and etc., has its own challenges in spite of all these efforts, and still reduction in malnutrition, child mortality over the year. There is still about 34% stunting, 17% wasting, or quite a significant amount of anemia. The recent study indicates nutrition as one of a major factor in terms of death of children under 5, for example. So it is a challenge, and I think an important agenda, as we can see it from government policies and program, to address upfront the concern of nutrition. And the couple of other points to stress here is the current National Family Health Surveys pointing out increased prevalence in 10 states out of the 22 is a concern and alarming, and therefore increased intensity of efforts in these states and districts where there are challenges is important to really tackle at the continental or national level issues. The World Food Program, as was referred, I work over 35 years in 11 countries, We are working in a small way with the government at the central level and at the state level, demonstrating best practices, helping to work on improving system procedures, bringing innovation, and adding a small value to our contribution. And we have had a long journey of 50 years. In particular, concerning nutrition, our engagement is promoting number of things like better take-home ration for children, Anganwaris, fortification, innovative practices in terms of improving school meal program, and we are working in capacity building at different level. We're working in Odisha, UP, and Rajasthan, supporting it. I was just recently in Uttar Pradesh. In fact, we have set up several small production units of supplementary food, which is run by women groups, self-help groups, and that supplementary locally produced food delivered to the Anganwaris, whereas there is a creating of jobs, consuming locally produced food, and fresh delivered to the children. And in fact, this small initiative has been replicated by multiplying many times by the UP state government, creating lots of jobs and lots of new initiatives. Now, lastly, I want to say 6 points to end my conversation as a way forward. Number one, we need to continue safeguard and promote access to nutrition, safe and affordable diets regularly in uniformity across the states, wherever there are challenges. Investing in 1,000 days is really fundamental, from conception to 2 years of age for the children, along with the breastfeeding is really important. Continue to work on evidence, so therefore maybe reactivating and scaling up services for the early detection and treatment of child wasting would be important. School meals play a fundamental role in learning, nutrition, and the human development is an important thing to continue. There are the social protection program. There could be some people missing out of it. It's important to include that. The initiative of One Nation, One Card for public distribution is a great initiative. So given so much migrant in the country, they have access to this across. And lastly, very important to continue to ensure various support services, health, sanitation, and income support to the mothers so that they stay continuing diversified food and vitamin, protein, mineral, etc. So thank you very much and all the best. I appreciate this opportunity. Cheers.
Thank you, Paranjali. Though, you know, your entire overview of what needs to be done is a bit overwhelming, we still think that together we can, and we will. And in the interest of time, I will move on to the panel, but just one question to you before I go, particularly with the food fortification. As a country representative of the World Food Programme, how do you think the production and the supply and the awareness on this vertical, what is your plan of action?
I think the government is head on into this, and we commend it. Quality control, realization of value. You remember those days we used to have goiters.
Yes.
Lots of people.
And the iodized salt, yes.
Have challenged that. So, you know, European Union countries, other countries have this process for a long time addressing this issue. Why not India? India should be ahead. So the initiative from the Honorable Prime Minister is commendable on this front.
Super. That is such a positive note that we have ended your keynote with. Thank you so much for being with us. Now we'll move on to a set of rapid fire questions for our esteemed panelists. And we have A's. ACE also is ACE speakers, if I may say, Ajay, Arun, and Ekta. That is the brilliant panel that we have. So we start with Dr. Ajay Khera. My special question to you, Dr. Ajay, is so many initiatives you're involved with. I want to know the what and why. The what is about what really worked and what failed and why. Dr. Khera. You're muted, Dr. Khera. Ajay ji?
No, thank you very much for asking this question. And let me, first convey my greetings to all of you on behalf of Engender Health. And I'm so happy to be part of this important panel. Now, as you're all aware that India is struggling to address the issue of malnutrition for a long time. And you also know the commitments of the government of India. And even the Honorable Prime Minister has given so much of priority. Now, if I look at the present scenario, the political environment, the policy environment is absolutely positive in that direction. The only important thing which we need to put into practice and which has come up very clearly that 1,000-day approach is the way forward. Because if I think through and look at the past actions which have been done, they have been quite fragmented actions. That's why I think we have not been able to demonstrate the kind of the success which we should have. But the way we are now talking about malnutrition, not only as a 1,000-day, but also a multi-sectoral action. I don't know how many people are aware that nutrition agenda is not only being addressed by the health department, not only by the women and child department, other departments are equally engaged, whether it is education department or whether it is rural development department. So it has to be a multi-sectoral. Water supply sanitation department. All departments have been fully geared up. They have understood the criticality of this malnutrition, the undernutrition, and its implication. And its implications are not only in terms of survival, because as you all know that 50% of this child mortality is attributed to malnutrition. So unless we address this root cause of undernutrition, malnutrition, we will not be able to address the survival. And then simultaneously, we also talking about, cognition. Malnutrition not only helps in, improving the physical health of the children, but also improves the cognition. And there are strategies which has become an integral part of the 1,000-day window is the so-called the early childhood development, which I think Professor Arun Singh, who has been able to introduce this approach into this whole system of 1,000-day, that can really make a change, not only in terms of physical growth of a child, but cognition of a child also is important. So I think, many things have happened. So my suggestion at this point of time is, we continue to emphasize on this agenda of 1,000-day. 1,000-day is the agenda, not for a year. It has to be a continuous process. It just can't be for a 21 or a year 22. At least for continuously 4 or 5 years, we should continue to speak about it so that 1,000-day becomes the routine and the integral part of everybody's business in terms of improving the health, nutrition, well-being of women and the children. I think we really feel very satisfied. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Excellent. I think, everybody is, being so positive about the right kind of political and, the environment as such, which makes us step forward. And the two important takeaways from Ajayji's comments are that finally the recognition of the life course approach and a multi-sectorial approach. In the life course, the 1,000 days, the shapat that we have taken, a 1,000-day journey, it again, re-emphasizes our resolve that we are moving in the right direction. So thank you so much, Ajay, for these very valuable inputs, because there is a long way to go, but we have begun in the right direction. That's what your comments emphasized on, and that makes us feel a lot more better. So continuing this journey with Dr. Arun Singh, what you've done for the labor room, what you've done for the screening of healthcare providers, the breast milk bank, and it's it's such a holistic approach. So how do you see plan your work and work your plan? If that is the mandate given to us, what would you like to suggest? And yeah.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I'm extremely thankful to Dr. Ajay Khera. Under his leadership, I have worked, and this journey of 1,000 days started with his encouragement. There are 3 points I would like quickly to make. Number one, for a country like India, which is more of a subcontinent than a country, when we talk of nutrition, we should think of 2 things: nutrition to the body, and nutrition to the brain. They cannot be separated. When we think of nutrition, we only think of trying to put something to satisfy the hunger. Secondly, during this COVID times, nutrition to the brain has taken a huge beating. Children are glued to TVs and classes are being held virtual. All this is not. When we say nutrition to the brain, it means going to nature, playing in the outfields. So I hope very quickly what is a very important learning from the nature should come back. The schools must inculcate. So this is one. Second is that I would go slightly before the conception. So actually the nutrition should start prior to conception.
Absolutely.
Rabindranath Tagore said, you become a parent not when you conceive, but you become a parent when you think of becoming a parent. The first day you think you are a parent, the neurotransmitters of your brain change. And there is scientific evidence to suggest that. The single commonest factor which I observed during COVID times among pregnant mothers mostly were asymptomatic, excepting the mothers who had moribund obesity. So I think a time has come where even before you become pregnant, we need to address on one side undernutrition, on the other side the issue of moribund obesity, which also leads to the problem of malnutrition to the newborn. So just because the mother has more weight doesn't mean the newborn will have more weight. It is the reverse. The third point I would say, we need to encourage nutrition, not as a package, but respect the geographical boundaries. 1955, a very beautiful experiment was carried. The place where I am working, Jodhpur, has a very big desert, Thar desert. So they found a group of rats which did not have any obesity. Their cholesterol levels were very normal. So they were taken to USA to understand, at Johns Hopkins, to understand why this group of rats are not developing obesity. But surprisingly, when they were taken to USA and given the same food which rats are given in the laboratory, they did develop hypercholesteremia. So the point I'm trying to make is the genes have also a role in nutrition. So one needs to give the nutrition as based to the climatic condition for which the body has been made. We cannot have one food suiting everyone. So the food for different parts of areas, whether you are close to a sea or close to a desert, cannot be the same. The last part is that because of COVID, a lot of people have lost their job. In such situations, the tendency becomes to fill the belly, which is basically more of carbohydrate than anything else because that's the cheapest. Less of oil, less of protein, less of micronutrients. So how to address this? When their tummy gets full, they feel a feeling that they have taken the food, but that food is not addressing the real hunger of the body, the hidden hunger of the body, which is going to impact the cognition, which is going to impact how to address that. I think will be a challenge in itself to make people understand that filling the tummy is not important. What is important is the kind of things which you have consumed and making it cultural and socially palatable. So that no one eats saying that this much gram of protein I have to take, this much gram of fat I have to take. But traditionally, the people, they know what food to take in what climate, and that consists a very balanced way. So how to make it, package it in such a way that it is cultural specific, it is area specific, and that food contains at the same time scientifically all the micronutrients which we are, I think that's. And my last thing is that now I'm thinking of thinking the whole, right from preconception to conception to newborn to infancy till 6 years as one under one roof, something like an extended perinatology. That's my road forward, which I have thought.
Excellent. I think this is a beautiful thought process which you have laid on our table, because all of us as OBGYNs also recognize that the adolescent healthcare and the preconceptional, the target which often is not easily available to us. And we have also started emphasizing preconception is not only before the first pregnancy, it is preconception before the second. So the interval pregnancy care is also, there's much to be desired in that segment as well. And you very well highlighted the triple burden of malnutrition, under the umbrella of which comes the swings of undernutrition and overnutrition and obesity and the micronutrient deficiency. So we are alarmed that, there is so much to handle, but the very key things to reach is not in terms of proteins, carbohydrates. There is such a rich cuisine and a complex, daily meal pattern in the variety of a diverse mix of individuals in our own country, which adds on to the challenge of they just need to know what they should be eating. And in a mix, even in a metro city like Bengaluru, I can say that 10 different patients coming, what I say in a uniform way will not relate to all the 10. Each one needs to be tailor-made, and that becomes a challenge again. So we're even thinking of introducing a whole cadre of diet counselors who can just communicate well. They'd not be, masters in their subject. And so about COVID, yes, we do agree that we're all homebound and it's a lot of tension, but it's also given us an opportunity to rethink and restart. Because, the digital platforms have given us a very strong way of connect in nooks and corners of our country. And I think we are encashing that opportunity, speaking to each other, planning ahead, and thinking collectively of what could work best. So thank you so very much for your inputs. Now I'm swinging to Ekta. Very, very realistic, practical questions to Ekta, because I know that her answers will be very honest. So that's why, Ekta, I need you to tell all of us and the audience, what really do you think that OBGYNs in the country are doing? Because in the 1,000 days, even if you leave aside the preconceptional, the pregnancy is a key target where they do reach out to the healthcare providers. That's a given. That is, that's a substantial target. How much time are we spending with the patient to tell anything about the nutrition? And do you think the 1,000-day concept has entered into the minds of the OBGYNs of the country? Ekta, I need you to unmute Ekta.
Thank you, Dr. Hema. First of all, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, ISWC and Dr. Hema, for giving me the opportunity for being on this very prestigious panel. And I am really sorry I joined late because of poor network and I came out of OT little late. I'm really sorry for that. Yeah.
Happy to have you.
Yeah, I would like to tell here, pregnant women, there is lot of compliance. They are very compliant and they visit OBG, they visit their doctor with their family, even their relatives and her husband, her mother-in-law, they listen to doctor and they take our advice very seriously. So as doctors, it is our duty to tell them, inform them, because this is the best time we can educate them. because they are going to follow our instruction. They are really concerned about the baby in utero, so they will definitely listen to us. And definitely we have to prescribe medicines, we have to tell certain tests at time to time when pregnant patient comes to us. But nutrition has very important role. Multivitamins, iron, calcium, they are doing their role. But nutrition, nothing can replace nutrition, and nutrition is the most important factor. We need to tell patient that they should take right amount of proteins, right amount of carbs, right amount of fats, and that too, carbs. We have to educate them that they should take carbs in moderation. They should take complex carbohydrates and
Ekta,
protein.
let me just rephrase this question, Ekta. You have 100 patients in the outpatient, and you have 2 minutes with each patient to tell about nutrition. How you will tell her this proteins, complex carbohydrates, what she'll eat?
We just need to tell them they have to take balanced diet. They have to avoid junk food. They have to take, they should avoid canned food, and they should go for healthy food which is available in the market. They have to say no to cans, and they should be more dependent on vegetables and fresh fruits and milk, dairy products, and for non-vegetarians, egg and poultry, etc. And,
and the next
it's a duty to
Ekta,
tell them.
is suppose now I place 1,000 gynecologists in front of you. How many do you think will be aware of this 1,000-day concept?
I think now people, doctors, they all are aware, because even Dr. Arun said it's role of nutrition comes before a conception. Now people are quite aware about that.
Okay, and then how do they relate to, say, GDM, gestational diabetes mellitus, high sugars in pregnancy? GDM today is NCD tomorrow. Does this click in their minds? Do you think each of them, because for us, typically, realistically, it is take home baby, take home mother. The obstetric event is over, all well, and that's it. The long-term postpartum care, the long-term postpartum care. A patient is having high sugar today or high BP in pregnancy, you have to tag her for the rest of her life for her own development of the NCDs like hypertensive disorders and diabetes. And also the offspring childhood obesity and the early adulthood, the high sugars. So how much do you think our OBGYNs at this point in time seriously following this long-term connect between the pregnancy complications to NCDs?
Yeah, we all know GDM has long-term complication, and there was some connection problem. Yeah, we all know GDM has long-term non-communicable diseases, and we all know consequences that in later life she might develop. She's more prone to develop diabetes mellitus, even cardiovascular diseases. She's more prone to have obesity, even malignancies like endometrial, ovarian, breast cancers. She has higher chances as compared to normal population. So as gynecologists, we must screen them in the pregnancy before 20 weeks. We have to diagnose GDM, and in pregnancy we will take care, but even after delivery we must call them for screening, because she is prone to have diabetes in later life, and there are very high chances.
So as on today, postpartum follow-up with 100 GDMs, if you have, how many will listen to you and do come? Because you said they're very compliant during their pregnancy. I totally agree. They are, they behave really as how you would expect them to behave, but then they're busy with their work and they're busy with the little one, and then next year you want them to come back. They say, oh, nothing is wrong, and they'll not come back for years unless they land up with menopausal hysterectomy and related problems. Does this happen commonly in practice?
Yeah, very rightly said. They are very compliant during pregnancy time, and after delivery they just forget their doctor. But we have to remind them at the time of discharge. We have to tell them they can consult us, they can consult their physician for the consequences of GDM. We have to educate them.
Absolutely. So Ekta is one of our champions who is really very sincerely, committedly joined hands for sensitizing all the OBGYN community right across the country, and also leads the Janani helpline, which is a helpline for girls and women to give them the right kind of advice. And I think that is a platform where we can explore even more for the long-term follow-up of all of these women. So thank you, Ekta. I swing back to Ajay ji for Anemia Mukta Bharat to Poshan Yukta Bharat. So everything is interconnected. Tell us more about what kind of impact have these abhiyans made with the community or the population in our country in the last maybe 2, 3, 4 years.
Anemia, anemia is another huge, area of concern. And as we know, the problem is to the tune of every alternate child, every alternate woman and girl in the country is anemic.
Yeah.
And again, this problem is not there problem is there for last many, many years. Now, looking at this problem, and we thoroughly conducted a situational analysis, and we tried to understand the reason behind it. And we could understand that the iron and folic acid consumption of the population is less than the required amount. Keeping that point in mind, Government of India also came up with a big program of iron and folic acid supplementation, which was getting implemented for the last many, many years. Every pregnant woman is entitled for a IFA supplementation. Even the adolescent girls are entitled. Every child is entitled for a iron folic acid supplementation. This program was there for many, many years. But looking at the way the response has been that we have hardly been able to reduce the anemia prevalence in the country. And the reason was because there were problems in terms of compliance. There were problems in terms of IFA coverage. And I still remember those data sets available from the NFHS4, which indicate that the iron folic acid consumption in the pregnancy is 10 to 15%. Now, with the 10 to 15% IFA coverage, you can't demonstrate a change. That's why the Government of India brought out a big program which is called as the Anemia Mukt Bharat program, where there are 6 pillars are there. And one of the important pillar is a kind of a dashboard that there is a continuous monitoring on the IFA coverage, IFA supplementation. And I think with this kind of approach, there is a change in terms of IFA coverage across the country, even during pregnancy, post-pregnancy, even to the pediatric population, even to the adolescent girls, a weekly distribution. There has been significant improvement in the IFA coverage. But the important thing to note is this issue of fortification. I think fortification is one big initiative which is being taken care, which is being introduced in the country, and which can really be a game changer actually. If you look at the way this program is getting implemented, being introduced in the part of a staple food, not only in the wheat, but also in the rice, because large chunk of population is rice eater in the country.
Right.
And this will certainly help in reducing the iron and folic acid needs of the community. And we should be able to really demonstrate a change in the anemia situation. But these changes will take time. And fortification is also one of the strategies, not the only strategy. That's all from my side. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Ajay ji. The Lage Raho principle, which you have said, is is the key actually to this whole initiative, because again, we are reassuring ourselves that we are moving in the right direction, but we need to stick on there and move ahead inch by inch to get to our destination and continue to recycle and recircle the same efforts throughout, because we do believe that women's health is nation's wealth. It all starts in utero, as we have said. So, points well taken. Again, Arun Singh ji, the neonatologist community and the OBGYNs community, if I want to make a confession that we may be the partners in crime, because the pregnant women, with all her complications, is not either reaching the facilities or the capacity of the healthcare providers. Whomever she sees, the quality is, much to be desired, and the corrections are not, the testing, the corrections are not in place. And it reflects as the offspring, not only at the neonatal stage, but for a long, long time in their life, entire health of the generation being impacted by this in utero transfer theory. How much do you think that you would pay attention to any neonate that is that you have to handle about the mother's situation, which may impact this neonate in childhood, in early adulthood? How is that link and the sequence? Because we are not even able to link up with the maternal child health to NCD, the two ministries, or to the integration of what we're talking about. We are still working very hard on our way towards, because the connect is not happening. So to your mind, what would be the best thing to do to mark these offsprings born to women with hypertensive disorders, born to women with undernourishment, born to women with hyperglycemia? How do you take it forward?
Yeah, I think your approach is that there's a problem and you want a solution. So there are two ways to look at it. Can we reduce the problem by itself? I personally think one of the things which we have messed up as the doctors, professionals, is to divide teachers the same in these groups. The approach is actually did not allow us to understand the whole picture. I'll just tell you one simple thing. If the obstetricians and the newborn come together to cut the cord, not early but late, that extra blood, that extra iron can help to address the anemia of the child. And here anemia is cognition. Here anemia is not anemia. Here that iron deficiency is absolutely related to cognition. If it comes to cognition, you can understand his productivity as a member of the society and country will be more as a physical laborer than a mental laborer, which is a huge loss to the system. So I think, see, we talk of breast milk. For 3 decades, we have been talking of promoting breast milk. It's not improving. Why? Because the OBS and the newborn have not come together. Lot of medicines which you give as for induction augmentation can actually impact the breast milk secretion, because the OXTR receptors, the oxytocin receptors get filled up. So there are a number of studies to show that this has an impact. The point I'm trying to make is you can't see in piecemeal.
Absolutely.
Well, if after doing everything, we still have some problem, to address it to a later stage, which is beyond the newborn period, beyond it is, I think, yes, you are very right. It is a life cycle approach. And at least starting from conception till 6 years, there should be one group which should see the child. To me, the successful pregnancy means I have a child who is at least 6-year-old with proper cognition, with proper nutrition. If that I have achieved, then the point of conceiving has actually resulted, and that will not make the mother go for another child because this child is good. He has. So, this period has to be seen as one. All the interventions have to be bundled together rather than to see in piecemeal.
Absolutely, worthwhile point, because of the 6 pillars which Ajay ji mentioned. One of the pillars is delayed cord clamping, and in our flagship initiative for quality healthcare and accreditation program through FOXY called Manyata, we emphasize on these two simple, so easily doable things. The delayed cord clamping and starting breastfeeding within 1 hour. They absolutely must do this, and no excuses to be made. So these simple low-hanging fruits, which would, be the forerunners of some major initiatives. And especially, we were all the time focusing on anemia care to get the mother to have a good hemoglobin so that she doesn't lose her life. That is a knee-jerk kind of a reaction. We have to prepare her prior to pregnancy, and by mid-pregnancy, she should be in the pink of health so that the proper iron transfer happens to the fetus, and it's not only the anemia but the cognitive functions, which Dr. Arun Singh so eloquently mentioned, will get into the right time frame. So thank you so much for that. Atta, one last comment from you before we wind up as to how do you bridge the gap between knowing and doing? Because really the 30 million pregnancies every year in the country, and the numbers of healthcare providers for these are definitely not matching. We are trying to empower the teams in the hospitals so that the nurses will start at least talking, knowing what they're talking, and they can be our ambassadors for the communications bit. So how do you think we should bridge the gap between what we know, but we don't have the time to tell each and every patient, and we don't have the time to tell again and again? So.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Hema. See, definitely, doctor to patient ratio is poor in India, and we should use of helplines, Janani helpline, and other helplines, and we can involve non-medicals, paramedical staff to educate people. Even government has started a lot of schemes, and Anganwadi workers, and everybody is involved to educate pregnant ladies. So that way, by involving other people apart from gynecologists, we can reach out to more pregnant women.
Yeah. So as we said, the life course approach, so it also means the entire community of all stakeholders, including the people themselves, should join hands in this whole movement. So we are now coming to the end of this panel with the key takeaways being that we have to be together in this, not only as different stakeholder specialists, but with different angles to nutrition being brought ahead with a holistic view of good air, good food, good communication, and good water, good sanitation, and all of the SDG goals which Dr. Parajuli mentioned. So if there is one closing advice that we have to give, we start with Parajuli. What is your parting shot to our audience?
I think there are lots of good things happening in India. But what I have witnessed is it's not uniform across the states where there are challenges. So we need to really focus on areas, districts and states where there are more problem and more attention need to be paid on that to bring all the parts of the states to the same level. And different areas, different program. There are lots of good program happening, but somewhere some good program, others other type of program. So we need to improve on this learning across states and also ask states to increase their commitment because it's a federal system. And therefore the ownership and commitment of the states is really fundamental. And these type of promotional activities and advocacy increasingly need to be done at the states where there are more problems. So there is a ownership at the local level to change and improve. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That is to break the silos and come together, know what the right hand and the left hand are doing with each other and join hands to do our best. Thank you, Mr. Parajuli, for being with us and giving very useful inputs. Ajay-ji.
No, thank you very much. I think the takeaway point to my mind is that nutrition cannot be managed overnight. It has to be a continuous process. We have to continue to invest. That's number one. And then the second important thing is it is a business of every sector. Every sector has to be engaged. So that is the second. And then the third important point is one has to understand it is a life cycle approach. Nutrition cannot be addressed in isolation. So it has to be a life cycle approach. I think these are the three takeaways which we must put into practice. Thank you very much.
Excellent, excellent, Dr. Ajay. Dr. Arun Singh ji.
I think I would perfectly agree with Dr. Kera, whatever he has said, that yes, it's not only of a health sector. I think that is that will not be a very productive. That is a firefighting situation. Yeah. But I think my take-home point is that we need to start thinking nutrition in the way of 1,000 days as nutrition to the body and nutrition to the brain. And investment today would bring in a cognitive gain to the whole society and to the whole country. So we need to see nutrition as an investment for which there is a huge return.
Thank you so much, Dr. Arun Singh. Invest today for a better tomorrow is a clear message taken, and the FIGO, that is our International Organization of OBGYNs, the initiative has the tagline of think nutrition first. That's what we are telling all the OBGYNs now in order to really sensitize them that beyond the prescription, there is a lot more that they can and they should do. Thank you so much. Atta, last word from
Yeah, I totally agree. Nutrition is a continuous process, and eat healthy, stay healthy. That should be, that should be taught to the people. And as a gynecologist, as a doctor, we have opportunity to meet them, to tell them, and we should do a bit.
Excellent. So we bring this brilliant panel to a close. Yet again, committing ourselves to do our bit of bringing in people together, to think, to plan, and of course, roll into action ASAP. So with my personal thanks, as well as on behalf of the Integrated Health and Wellbeing Council, as how the name suggests, we need to integrate our efforts for a better tomorrow. So Mr. Parajuli, Dr. Ajay Khera, Dr. Arun Singh, and my beloved Atta, thank you very, very much. Namaste. Next, we will have the show at 2 p.m. where we will have many, many leading health nutritionists and healthcare influencers on healthy food who will tell us to eat right, and that will be followed by the portion quiz for the kids from all across the country. So today we have the South Zone kids, tomorrow we will have the North, day after the East, and finally the concluding day, the winners from all the zones will be competing on the final day for the mega quiz at the Bharat Nutrition Week. That's where we have to catch them in and start early. That's yet again a positive message that we want to give all our beloved viewers, and once again thank the panelists whom we are so privileged to have today. Namaskar.
Namaskar.